So I would say I'm a fairly typical Australian in the sense that I do like to swear. I would really love to see in operas for the surtitles to be a little less formal. So meaning when you go to the theatre and you're looking at the translation above the stage, that language is a little bit more colloquial, and actually I would love to see some swearing in there. But what about swearing in opera as in it was actually written in the original libretto? What was the first opera to have a swear word? Now, the answer to that may be a bit of a surprise. It was actually in 1835, Donizetti, Moria Stuarda. Initially, Donizetti had wanted to work with a very famous librettist called Felice Romani. They'd collaborated before on Anna Bolena. For whatever reason, he wasn't vibing with this. So somehow, I'm not quite sure how this happened, but Donizetti chose a 17-year-old guy who was a law student. His name was Giuseppe Bardari, and he had never written a libretto before, but he was a big fan of playwrights. He was very, very well read. Now, I don't know if it was him just being like an edgy youth or he just was too inexperienced to know any better, but this guy took some risks. So there's a very famous scene in Act 2 where it's a confrontation scene between Queen Elizabeth and Maria Stuarda. Maria Stuarda has stolen Elizabeth's fiancé. It's a very, very tense situation. The scene gets to a breaking point and Maria Stuarda she explodes and she says, Meretrice indegna e oscena, in te cada il mio rossore, profanato è il solio inglese dal tuo pie, vil bastarda. Oh! And actually, that scene is so intense that apparently in real life, sopranos and mezzos have had fist fights during this scene. I'll do a story on that later. But needless to say, the censors were completely horrified by this and they blocked the opera. It didn't get its debut for like another year. When it did finally get its debut, the censors told the soprano singing the role that they made some changes and she wasn't allowed to say bastarda. But she was a badass and she did it anyway. But it meant that the performance kind of was cancelled after 6 performances.
Balena, parli tu di disonore,